we are, not only are we subject to being, but we are being videotaped. Your image and or voice may be recorded.
Still in the limit.
Oh, that's good.
Lynn, can I have one of those, please?
Yeah.
The reduced
Can you
ones?
pass them out?
I can pass these up.
No, until maybe the rest
One of each.
Especially if they're all. Yeah. That's what it meant when they signed it.
Are these all the same?
What's put together is the same.
Okay. Let's start down this end with
Yeah, they're right at the top.
5, 6, okay, 7.
there's 7 of us and Leanne needs one.
Okay. Get out. Well, maybe there is 8. I think I should go in the next one.
What are you doing? Staying what?
Okay, I think we're ready to start. I ask if you wish to have a discussion with someone that you step outside and not disturb those around you. Please try to keep the doorways open in the case of an emergency, if someone needs to use the doors. Are you all set, Leanne? Okay. All right, we verified that the hearing has been properly posted and that the abutters have been notified. We usually have a presentation first by those petitioning the board. We will then go to any other town board that wishes to have input. And then we will go to the board at the table that they have any questions. And then we will open it up to the general public. You are welcome to ask any question you wish. You're on.
Okay, thank you very much. For the record, my name is John Grenier. I am the civil engineer working on this project. I'm also here with Mr. Stephen Benincasa and Julie Benincasa, who are the proponents for this project. What we are proposing is to develop what was the Worcester Sand and Gravel sand pit property on 180 River Road West. This is located on the easterly side of the Rotary. As you know, River Road West, it is kind of a commuter road that heads to the east towards Hudson. The entire property is 50 acres. What you are seeing in this area right here is approximately 30 acres. That is just the sand pit portion of the property that fronts on River Road West. There is an additional approximately 20 acres that doglegs to the north that heads up towards Summer Road. None of that portion of the property is proposed to be built on. There may be, in the wooded area on the slope, there may be an area for a public water supply well, but there would be no, roadways or structures developed for this project, only on the sand pit portion of the property. I have a little narrative that I'd like to share with everybody that introduced the project. The name of this project is Glenbrook, and it is going to be a type of senior care community. On behalf of the applicant, I'd like to introduce Glenbrook. It'll be a senior care community that's located at 180 River Road West. Glenbrook will provide a complete and comprehensive care for residents that will allow them to age in place as they become patients, in the comfort of a home-style setting. In today's complicated healthcare world, it is common for the elderly to have to move to different locations to accommodate increased levels of care when bodies and minds begin to fail. In our home-like setting, we remove the anxiety of moving until absolutely necessary. Glenbrook, in partnership with Beata Living Solutions, will provide our residents with home health, therapy, and hospice services, as well as a wide variety of fitness and wellness programs. Glenbrook will provide an on-site 24/7 senior care coordinator that will ensure residents receive the level of care required if and when they need it as they become patients. Glenbrook, in conjunction with Beata Living Solutions, will deliver precise clinical, rehabilitative interventions and services that will provide a safe home environment for people as they age in place. This will reduce the potential for hospitalizations and attend to the specific needs of our residents and patients. Glenbrook is unique in that our residential care community will provide a full spectrum of health services, amenities, and a safe environment for our clients without the institutional feel of traditional care facilities. When residents age and become patients, they will have the luxury of having their own residential style unit that provides the feeling of independence in a traditional home-like setting. In addition to providing a full spectrum of health services, Glenbrook will have a wide range of amenities for our residents. These amenities will include maintenance-free living with no concerns for home or yard upkeep, spacious floor plans with private garages, unlimited local and long-distance telephone services, high-speed internet, housekeeping services, a fully equipped community wellness center with a clinical care suite for our patients to use. It'll have a courtyard with open space for residents to participate in outdoor community functions, which would be located behind the Community Wellness Center, and they can also participate in rehab therapy. And we'd have organized outings and day trips for residents. The Community Wellness Center will provide space for services and amenities to our residents that include a great room featuring a fireplace for residents to socialize, a dining area, which we will be providing one full meal a day, a fitness area where residents and patients can participate in scheduled exercise, yoga, and aerobic classes with rehab services as necessary, a spa area for massage therapy, a salon for hairstyling, manicures and pedicures and the like, and a clinical care suite for the care of patients as needed. So Glenbrook is a residential care community that will provide peace of mind for our residents, clients, and their families. With our full spectrum of service packages as managed by our on-site senior care coordinator, in conjunction with our partnership with Beata Living Solutions, our resident, clients, and patients will receive top quality personal 24/7 care, worry-free living in a safe environment. Personalized service packages will allow our residents to age in place and enjoy their golden years in a safe home-style setting. So that's an overview of what we are looking to create here. at the 180 River Road site. I do have a site plan that shows a layout for the proposed facility. So again, this is the frontage on the bottom side of the sheet, 180 River Road West. As you enter into the site, this is approximately the same location where the entrance to the sand pit is now. At the front portion of the site, that's where we have the community center and the clinical care suite. We would have the community coordinator residence attached to that, and that would be someone who is on site full-time, and that would be able to assist with the residents and patients. It has a loop road, and these are cottages that would be located around the perimeter of the property. This does not use the entire portion of the pit. You can see there is other area here on the westerly portion of the pit that is not being chopped out as part of this development. It would use about 26 total acres. Most all of it is on the easterly portion of the existing sand pit. We would be keeping the grades approximately the same as what's in the sand pit now. We'd be fine-tuning the slopes at the perimeter of the sand pit, but we'd be staying within what was the original limit of cut for the sand and earth removal, gravel removal operation that was underway when Worcester Sand was using this site and removing all of the gravel and sand out of there. So we're not expanding really beyond the footprint of what was already the limits of the cut within the pit. So we'd have a total of 65 units for residents and patients. Again, we have our community building that would house the services, and also our community care coordinator, which would be there 24/7 for any of the needs of the patients. The community coordinator would also be there to coordinate different day trips, really make it a community if they wanted to have functions, if they want to have any groups or clubs. That would be there to coordinate all of those programs and services. They want to take a day trip and go down to Newport, Rhode Island to look at the mansions. That would be able, a community coordinator to bring all of the patients and residents together so that they would really have programs and services and amenities so that it would be a benefit and help the entire community as a whole. Further, to give you an example of conceptually how we are looking to for the Wellness Center and the Clinical Care Suite, we are looking to have a community room and game room in the front. We provided some pictures just for conceptual purposes to show you this is how we're looking for this center to function and be developed. A community room, you have a fireplace, a common area where residents can come and interact, a game room, possibly a pool table, something so that the residents can, again, come together, they can enjoy each other's company. We have a cafe area where we would provide a meal a day and an associated dining area. In the rear portion of the building, we would have the clinical care suite, which would be, a little medical office where someone can come in, they can have rehab, they can, through BAYADA, have any type of analysis that they would need for medical purposes. Adjoining that is a fitness center, so there would be an area where they have the ability to have treadmills, have any types of, whether it's a yoga class, anything along those lines. A small salon area so someone could go in. We're going to bring in someone who can come in, they can do nails, do somebody's hair, that type of service. And then in the rear portion, which would be in this area behind the community center, we'd have open space so that there can be a patio, they can have outdoor activities, we can have some bocce courts, something so that they can have outdoor activities, have walking paths through there. So that could be some for outdoor activities for the residents and clients. Also, we do also have a concept plan for the cottages where residents and patients would live. These are small cottages, 2-car garage, in the range of 15 to 1,700 square feet total. They would be first floor. We'd have the ability for 1-floor living, master bedroom on the first floor. It could be handicap accessible so that people, the purpose of all this is so people can age in place. They have services that are provided on site, and people are not paying for services that they don't need. In many instances, when people move into large facilities, they're paying a high price and they're paying for services that they don't necessarily need. This model is so that we can provide a full spectrum of services right up through hospice, and that they would only be paying for the services that they need, and that helps keep it economical, and so that people can age in place and not have to pay a high price and be able to live in a comfortable home-style setting. So I think that's a good overview of the project. I put it to the chair with any questions or comments.
First of all, is there any board present that would like to make a statement or has looked at them or has it at this time? Not that they wouldn't have a chance at some other time. Did you want to say?
May we ask a few questions from the... Okay.
Absolutely.
So, under which entity in the state would you be licensed through?
There is no required licensing through the state
For this project?
for this project, correct?
And then the coordinator on site 24/7, how many coordinators would you be employing?
We would have, typically in these situations, you would have a husband and a wife, so there'd be 2, but then we could have outside, obviously for other services, there would be outside people coming in, but typically we'd have 2 people on site full-time.
And how many bedrooms do you propose?
Well, there's a total of 65 units. They can be up to a 2-bedroom. So we would anticipate the maximum full-time, if there were 2 people, it's based on the total of 2 people, usually a couple. So that could be up to 130 full-time residents. But obviously there are widows, widowers, some people may move in there that are single. There may be a couple that moves in where the husband needs services, and another benefit to this is we're not breaking up families. If someone's husband needs services, they don't have to move or pay for a high price to move into a large facility. They can have this as their home, and then one of the spouses can receive services on site.
And can you elaborate on the kitchen facility? I mean, you're proposing that there'll be a meal available for
Yes,
the entire community on a daily basis for one time? Or are you just saying that as...
Breakfast.
requested? And would the meal be prepared on site or brought in?
Well, each of the units will have its own kitchen.
I'm
So-
asking about the joint.
Yeah, so they'll have their own kitchen. We're anticipating providing a breakfast meal a day, and that would be prepared, and that would be as a minimum. If it was desired that people also wanted to have a lunch service, we could provide that addition, but we're looking at providing a breakfast service right now, and that would be available to the entire community.
And so prepared on site,
Yes.
and other meals prepared on site, not brought in and heated up?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Not necessarily.
And then the square footage of the amenities, the different rooms that you've got for,
The total area is about 3,500 square feet
okay,
in one footprint.
good. The planning board, at a meeting held on Tuesday, February 1st, 2020, the Berlin Planning Board reviewed a proposed residential care facility to be located at 180 River Road West. And based on the materials available to the board, we concluded by unanimous vote that the proposal does not comply with the definition of residential care facility as outlined in the Berlin zoning bylaws. We took that vote last night. I just wanted to ask a few questions to make sure that we understood pretty well what we found.
So Leanne, if you would please, I heard you. Leanne doesn't trust me.
Thank you.
May I ask a question to the applicant?
I'm sorry?
May I ask a question of the, Mr. Wheeler?
Sure, if you wish to.
That was
I'm sorry, folks, this is a little disconcerting.
Okay, no, I just wanted to clarify. As part of this application process, we did submit the plans and the proposal through the building inspector, and he provided us with his analysis, how this does or does not meet the zoning requirement. And
Excuse me, sir, I read the letter, I don't believe that's true. He said it would be up to the zoning board of appeals to determine whether or not this qualifies.
I have his letter right here.
Okay, could you read that section?
I can read that section. It says, in my opinion, you do not meet the full requirement of a residential care facility. In my opinion, a classic residential care facility would have staffing available to the residents within a common building so as to be able to attend to their needs. Even in a rest home or home for the aged, there is staffing to help with medical feeding or going to the bathroom, etc. It appears that you are proposing something that is closer in scope to a continuing care retirement community. However, it does not appear that you are providing a common dining area, which we modified, and at least one main meal each day, which again we've modified. A continuing care retirement community is not a specifically allowed use in this zoning district. However, Section 314 classification by implication states, a use not specifically authorized or prohibited in a district, but which is consistent with the intent of that district and is similar to uses authorized in that district, shall be classified as a special permit use by the zoning enforcement officer. I believe that Section 314 is applicable to your proposed use, as it is similar in nature and intent to a residential care facility. And then he goes on to say, and then I believe this is where your understanding. He said, the zoning board will make the final determination as to how many occupants will be allowed, the lack of a one main meal being served each day, and any other requirements. So what I understand from that is in the building inspector's analysis, that, to quote him, that Section 314 is applicable to to our proposed project as it is similar in nature and intent to a residential care facility.
Can I just, my name is Alex Parr, I'm an attorney, I represent the applicant. And I just want to clarify a little bit what Mr. Grenier said. The zoning bylaw, section 214 of the zoning bylaw authorizes the zoning enforcement officer to make a determination as to whether a use can be permitted by special permit, in this case, special permit of the Board of Appeals, even though it doesn't fit specifically within a definition of the bylaw of any particular or specific use, so long as in the building or the zoning enforcement officer's opinion it is consistent with permitted uses. So we view this letter as the determination of the zoning enforcement officer that this is a permitted use under section 314 of the bylaw, subject to a special permit and site plan review of the zoning board of appeals. So that doesn't, we're not saying in any way, shape, or form that the zoning board of appeals doesn't have authority as a special permit granting authority to impose conditions upon approval if the board so chooses to approve the project, including conditions as to the size or the number of units or the number of occupants in the project. You have your full authority as a special permit granting authority to impose conditions consistent with the requirements of any special permit.
Thank you. Perhaps I can lead off here and ask a couple of questions. What is the nature of interest these patients will have in the property? Are they renters, leasers?
The model we have now is an ownership model. There are other models where when people put deposits down and they get deposits back. This is not that model, although ownership is not what we're here now. We're here about for sale product. So
Excuse me,
we're
you hear?
proposing it would be a for sale, fee simple.
So this is a condominium development then?
A form of, yes. The ownership.
A form of, is it or isn't it a condominium?
Condominium, yes.
Okay. Have you looked at, I look in the bylaw, and we're struggling with this. This sounds wonderful. Maybe I would find myself there someday. But it listed in residential uses in the same section that you're looking under educational institutional uses. Detached single-family dwellings are not allowed in the limited business district. Now, help me find a way that these aren't single-family dwellings, if in fact the ownership is a condominium ownership in fee simple.
This could be a development where, and other models are, someone comes in, they pay a fee, say they pay $250,000. They have their own unit, and then if and when they decide down the road to move out, they would get a portion, say 80 to 90% of that, of those monies back.
It's individual ownership still, okay? So I guess I'm asking you to help me when I look at residential uses, and it says that detached single-family dwellings are not allowed, nor are multiple family dwellings allowed in a limited business district. Perhaps you can dwell on that a little bit. Have you asked?
Can I-
Sure.
I think what's happening here, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, if you go down to the educational institutional uses, in a limited business district, you can have a residential care facility for not more than 100 patients by special permit. Now, what they're proposing is not exactly a residential care facility by the definition that's in the back of the zoning book. So they have close to what's called a community care retirement community, which has a slightly different definition. And I believe they're using Section 314 to say that this community care retirement community meets the requirement or is close to the residential care facility, and that's how they're trying to get around this. My problem with that is that my reading of the definitions, this doesn't meet the standard for a community care retirement community either.
Well, we can give them an opportunity to explore that possibility and perhaps get back to us. But following up on this ownership model, these are going to be basically 2-bedroom units, which we don't have any plans for, which would be helpful to us. They're going to be 2-bedroom, basically, units. What is in the definition that we have for a residential care facility, and again, it says licensed by the state, persons admitted for nursing care. Is this a case where a husband and wife could move there and live there? Let's say, I don't know what the break-off would be. Do they have to be ill to get in? Does one of the spouses have to be needing of some kind of nursing care? You know, there's a lot of families. What if they have an 18-year-old son? Can he live there too?
No.
What is the restriction on that?
What we are looking at is an age restriction that one person needs to be 62 or over. And there could be one other person younger than that. So if I'm 62, 65, my wife is 60, we can move in there. There wouldn't be
What if I'm 62 and single and have an 18-year-old kid?
Because you get 2 bedrooms.
Or married and have an 18-year-old.
That usually doesn't work out.
I guess we need to explore, I mean, that you need to walk us through some of these
Right,
things.
and this is not
You
geared
have a
for...
husband and wife, and I don't know if they call it cradle robbing or there's a great disparity in their ages. So one of the spouses comes in needing care. Can the other spouse live there forever?
And you haven't
They have
even
4
established
children.
that one needs care.
There would be,
There's no children.
there would be no one under, I would say, and correct me, nobody under 18.
But does one need care?
Would you discriminate against someone who wanted to move to the facility that needed care, that has underage children?
So we do it over 50 times also. I've done.
Can you have people speak up, please? It's difficult to hear back there.
Okay. Could I ask you to stand when you speak, please, just to help?
The question was, if we have a senior couple living there, 62, and they have a 22-year-old daughter or son that has a disability, would they be allowed to live there? I can tell you that we do 55 communities now, and I can name specific accounts where we have had that situation, and we have allowed them to be in that unit, a truly disabled child. And I dared anyone to be as heartless as to take a disabled child out of a home, and it's never happened. So I guess if somebody wanted to push it and go through court and go through, but it wouldn't happen under my watch.
Do you have other residential facilities?
Not like this, this is a little
This is
different
the
model.
first one?
Yes, and the reason being is that I do over 55s.
I've looked them up on your computer.
A number of communities. Berlin has one, and they have one now already permitted, and the general consensus was, we have enough over 55 communities. That was the board, that was the town's decision, and I respect that. So we went back and we looked at what else can we do here? And we looked at that we could do a CCRC, Continuing Care of Retirement Community. We did bring this up to the planning board back in the summertime. Quite a while ago, 6 months ago, and ran this by the planning board and said, can we do a CCRC on this site? And even though they weren't the permitting authority, we knew we had to come to the ZBA for this. But we ran this by the planning board for their, just for their opinion, for their take, to say, do you think this is a good idea? We got a unanimous approval. Yes, we think this is a good idea. Yes, we think this is permitted in this zone here. Now, that doesn't buy us anything. That only, gets us to the next level. And that got us, that's one of the things that got us here to go to your board. What other boards we go to too? We went to the selectmen.
Yeah, we were at the Selectmen a few
Sheffield a
weeks
while
ago. I've also been in front of the Conservation Commission about a week ago.
So we're not doing this in envelope. You're not the first board we've seen. We've already gone to other boards. We've already got there conceptually that they think it's a good idea. And that's what we were looking for, some feedback.
Could you tell us which boards those are other than the planning board?
The planning board, the conservation, and the selectmen.
We went
Planning
from the
board just
Selectmen.
passing a letter.
Yes, I know.
All right.
We went to the planning board 6 months ago.
Where's conservation? Okay. Hi.
Please.
Hi.
So to state that conservation thought this was a good idea would be overstating it. What conservation said was there are a few wetlands-related issues, which is our purview, that we would like to talk about. But in general, from a conservation standpoint, we don't have an issue with the project. It doesn't necessarily mean we think it's a good idea.
That's
To
what
clarify,
your purview
just to
is.
clarify,
That's
no.
all we asked for was
Right,
conservation.
right.
We didn't ask for a permit.
No, but you
Alluded to, I'm sorry
under,
if you thought I did that. I
Yeah.
didn't mean that. I'm sorry.
yes.
So I want to bring up another question you asked about.
Jim wants to
If
say
someone-
something.
I think for the record, I'd have to go back to the minutes of the planning board, because of course I'm losing memory, but the planning board certainly
We gotta
didn't take a
praise-
vote. The planning board certainly didn't take a vote. I think you.
Well, it was an informal meeting. We weren't on agenda, we weren't on public hearing. We actually, at that time,
Yeah, so I'll go back and look at the minutes, but there was no action taken by the planning board, and it was a discovery session on your part as to, what ifs. So when you throw us this final proposal that we looked at the other day, we took action, and that's the action we did take. We did not take any action in the past. I just want to make that clear.
well, I could say specifically what we did come in with, Tim. And I
Could
remember.
I just suggest that you
Go
err
ahead.
on the side of caution unless you have a vote of one of the committees or boards or individuals, and it specifically states what they voted on. What I'm getting when you say you've got agreement from some boards is conservation said, gee, we don't see that there's a problem with wetlands, but we'll have to look at it later on.
Sure.
And that the planning board didn't really give you an answer. So please, for us, don't come and say the planning board's in favor of this, if in fact you can't back it up, because it makes us cautious about everything that you say.
So here's my best recollection of what happened that time. We came in at the time, we'd gotten turned down for the over 55 community. We circled back, we said, okay, what can we do with this property? During the time when we were getting our approvals, you had gone to a town meeting and you had zoned the area cannabis friendly also. So at that time, we looked and said, we were getting feedback, do cannabis, do cannabis, do cannabis, and we're not in that business. We tried to partner up with I'm sorry if I'm derogating too much, but we reached out to the cannabis people. I don't do this, I think my wife would divorce me if I tried it, but we tried to get some people, and we had some people that were gonna invest in it, and so we came to the board, and we said, we're thinking of doing cannabis with portion of the property, maybe this jogs your memory, and we're thinking about doing a CCR on the other side of this property. And it was not a formal meeting, it meant nothing, I recognize that, it was not a public hearing, I'm not alluding to that. I'm just saying, we discussed this with the board openly, and we were looking for your feedback. Do you think this is a good idea or a bad idea? Is it permitted? And we had a positive response. It doesn't buy us anything. I'm not alluding to the fact that it bought us anything.
Okay, I think we're
We took
kind
that
of,
as positive, and then that's what gave us the confidence to move forward with this
I
proposal.
think I'm gonna take the shovel out of your hand. One of the things that would be helpful to me is this property here, I don't know if it isn't commercial in the front and limited business further back, or could you please, because I have a feeling that we will be here more than one evening, because you haven't met with some of the other folks, superimpose zoning on top of this.
I believe it's all limited business.
The vast majority of the property is limited business. Up by Summer Road.
So it goes all the way down to River Road.
Here, if you look on the full set, which is sheet 6 of 19, I can pull this up. This is the portion of the property at the far north. This is Summer Road. These are the houses on Summer Road. The end of Summer Road is in this area. And there's a zone line that runs through this portion, right up by Summer Road, where it goes, it's residential, agricultural, and then the limited businesses on this side. So the vast,
And what's that line across the bottom? Is that the street?
that's the limited, this is the residential
At the bottom,
corridor.
please.
And then this is all heading down into the whole pit. That's all limited business.
All right, so,
It's a match line. It's a match line to the next.
Yeah, there's a match line to sheet 4, which is the sheet before that. Yeah. So this is south of what I just showed you. Yeah, can I have the hand one? So Summer Road is up here. The zone line is up here to the north. And this is the dog leg. There's an existing house on the northern section of number 57 Summer Road. And this is the entire wooded hill. This is that dog leg that I was talking about. This is all in limited business. And then you get down into the pit further south, and that's again, all limited business. So on the far north section of the 50 acres,
so it's limited business from the street up until this.
almost till you get to Summer Road.
Okay. Have you done any of the required calculations in the bylaw? What, for example, I don't see a frontage on here. What's the frontage of this property? You said it was 36 acres, is that?
And so, well, the pit portion is about 30 acres. We are using, I believe, about 26 acres for this project. Which,
Well, does it encompass the entire lot? The existing lot?
no.
So you're looking to divide the property?
Correct. This portion of the pit, this is about the 26 acres that we're looking for this project. There's another small portion of the pit on this westerly portion, and this is the dog leg that goes back. So we're only looking at 26 acres in here, and including, we have a little dog leg that comes up to be part of this if we're gonna do a well on site.
So you're thinking of having the whole 36 or whatever, you keep on saying this project.
Right.
Is there something else that's
Yeah.
gonna be down that
It
project?
could be,
We would like to do something, we're not
we'd like to
sure.
do something with the balance of the
No.
pit area down the road. We don't know any of that yet.
You don't actually own the property at this point?
No, it's under contract.
Contingent on this?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Are these single story homes, or are they two-story homes?
There would be single story for like a first floor master. Within the gable portion, there could be like a small loft and maybe a second bedroom upstairs. We have another footprint that would have a master bedroom, main bedroom on the first floor, and something that would be like a small, 10 by or 11 by 13 room. That could be maybe just a small office area, or you could put a small day bed if someone came to visit. So there is one option that has
So it would be
possible.
two bedrooms
Yes, two
with the
bedrooms.
possibility of a third?
No, there's two potential footprints. And again, we haven't fine-tuned these yet. We have one that has one bedroom on the first floor and maybe a small loft and a guest bedroom on the second. And we have another potential footprint that's similar in size that would have a main bedroom on the first floor and a smaller bedroom on the first floor, and nothing on the second.
How do you even relate to the fact that you've got a possibility of 65 units with the possibility of 2 bedrooms? No matter how I do the math, that's 130 people, minimum.
Plus employees.
No,
Employees that come in, but yeah.
this would be max, since it's age restricting it, we're maxing it out 2 people. And
That's
that's,
still 130 people.
it could be up to 130 people, absolutely.
We can only issue,
It's 100
To
we can only issue a permit up to 100.
It would be 100, and again, this is where, if it was more of a one building facility where you're coming in and you have a room and there's more of an apartment style where it's a residential care facility, that's 100 patients. In this model, if you move in with your wife, you may be a patient, she may not.
But do you
Well-
let them in if they're a patient? If you're saying it's a 100-patient residential facility, you get 130 bedroom possibilities. Who would let, what are the conditions? You don't even have any
You have
set
to
up
be
the
62
conditions.
and older, and it's designed to be age in place. This is to fill the void between single-family or over 55 developments and the nursing home.
It just seems like a duplex.
You can call it whatever you want. I mean, you want us to,
It's not what you're calling it specifically.
I mean,
Do you
it's
have
a
rules?
residential community. We want it to look like a home. We don't want it to look like a commercial building. We want it to be a residential in character, and yet, and no, every person that lives here does not, I could move there with my wife again. Maybe I would need the services, maybe she would need the services. We thought this all through. Do we think that, do we need to separate families because one is going to be...
I'm not asking about separating
Right, and
families.
so
That has
that's
nothing
what
to do
we're
with what
going
we're
with.
talking about.
That we think there's going to be far below, maybe below 100, and maybe just 65, 66.
But how do you cut it off?
And could I just ask, if you
And-
do have a couple, and one is significantly older than the other, let's say it's the gentleman that's older than his wife, and he expires, or he goes to a nursing home, or whatever happens, she's 26 years old, she can continue to live there? No, I'm asking you. And
Absolutely not.
if he
Absolutely
were,
not.
well, what do? You kick her
You know
out?
what, honestly, that's a theoretical question, and I've built
But you
probably
haven't
400
done,
over 55 communities. We've never, ever had that situation. It could happen tomorrow, but we've never had that situation. I'm sorry, we could pull theoreticals.
but that's an over 55, it's not a residential care facility.
Right, and the purpose of this community and the people that this is geared towards, and I mean, you can find anomalies here and there, obviously, but what this is geared for is so that people can age in place, they have someone on site. If I'm 65, my wife is 64, she has a stroke. She can't be left by herself 100% of the time. We have someone on site so that they can check in on her. They can make sure she's
Is a
okay.
person on site a registered nurse or an LPN?
We-
It could be, but it's not necessarily. So the home,
And
the home that's next to the,
I've looked at it, you've got a care, but you're not saying it's a couple, but it could be, it's,
Obviously, the person that would be qualified to be on-site is,
and you have you have qualification restrictions.
they would have qualifications. Yeah,
Do we
you're not
have-
gonna get,
Okay, so
you know,
we're not gonna get medical.
you would have that available for us to look at.
okay. And so, again, just to my point, the purpose of this is so people can move in here knowing that as I age, if I need some services now, they're available to me. If I need more services, I will have the availability of more services, whether I need a visiting nurse in every day, whether I need therapy every day. We will have those services available to people on site so that they can live in their home for as long as they possibly can, and even up through hospice service, so people can age in place. That is the whole premise of what we are looking to accomplish with this.
Got that.
So
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
My issue here is the zoning ordinance only allows up to 100, it says 100 patients.
It does.
You don't have patients, you have residents.
Well, we will have,
So can
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I want to come back to somewhat to where we started to address your question is,
Can't hear you back here.
I'm sorry, we took the, excuse me, I'm sorry. We took the proposal to the building inspector, to the zoning enforcement officer, for a determination under section 314.
Yep.
And so what was given to the zoning enforcement officer was, to look at, was this project. And he came back, and in his letter, what he says is, yes, I've determined that it is a permitted use, but I'm not taking away from the zoning board of appeals its authority as a special permit granting authority to make a determination in the way that you would with, any special permit, as to maximum density and any other conditions that you would do. So the only point I'm trying to make is that given the building inspector's determination, I don't think you're limited to 100 patients or 100 persons. He's seen the project, he says it's a permitted use, but you have the authority as a special permit granting authority to impose the conditions that you feel appropriate, which may be, after you've heard all of the evidence, that you think it should be 110, 102, any other number.
Well,
That's my only point.
okay, the zoning inspector did not make any specifications as far as the number of residents.
Correct.
He
I
said,
agree.
we'll consider this to be a continuing care facility, but the zoning ordinance itself limits this to 100 patients. Now, if you're going to say, well, I have a couple moving in and only one is a patient, the other one isn't, so now I can have 200 people living here because there's only 100 patients and 100 people who aren't patients. I don't think that's the intent of the zoning regulation. We're moving from a residential care facility where everybody is a patient to a continuing care facility. I think that 100-person limit still has to continue from, instead of being patients, is residents. You can't say, well, 'cause you could literally have 90% of these occupied by people who aren't any sort of patient at all. They may have no medical problems. I mean, I'm almost 62, I could move in there, I don't have any health issues so far.
But you may be developing a health issue that you know of, and you want to situate yourself in that position.
So when do I become a patient, and when am I just a resident?
Then you need it.
So if I go to the doctor tomorrow, I'm suddenly a patient, and
So
what's that going to do to your
we're not
numbers?
forcing- We're not forcing anyone.
What qualifies someone as a patient? Because you're saying that if you're 62, you can move in. So describe the difference. I understand the amenities that you're supplying, but tell me how that's different from you know, over 55.
You're a patient if you're using the services.
And
So what
we
if
are,
you move in and don't use the services?
those services are available to them. I'm sorry.
Any of those things are possible if they're all theoretical, and I don't have any concerns about those, but if the board has concerns about those, and put it in a decision that they're not allowed to move unless they use the services. That's.
I don't know that we can do
But you
that.
have, you list so many theoretical things, like what if someone's in there 26? We're not gonna have everybody in 26, put in a decision, nobody 26, and I'm just throwing this out as an example.
We can't do that. Because it would be illegal, it's age discrimination. Unless it's an over 55 facility, or there's some tie in the, I mean, you're a lawyer, right?
Let's not go there.
I'm just
No, I don't know.
I got a pass.
Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
Thank you.
And
I have a letter in which the building inspector wrote to Casser Investments on December 10th, and it says the zoning board will make the determination whether your proposed project meets the requirements for a residential care facility. So that's what I was going on.
this is the letter, I think you have an outdated letter. The letter that we have from the building inspector is dated January 14th.
Yep.
Okay. Could I also ask you, I have a feeling you'll be back. Under Article 6, the density and dimensional regulations. In the limited business, there's certain minimum lot and everything. I think you meet those, but do you? I had asked earlier what your frontage is. And you are
Yes.
dividing this property, are you?
Yes, ma'am.
Correct, we are dividing property.
Okay, and you have permission from whomever you need to divide it, correct?
We will.
We will, and we will meet all of the dimensional regulations. I'm looking to
Okay, well,
find
then
the
you
sheet that has all of
can
my...
carry that forward.
Okay.
You're gonna have a 50% green area, right?
Yes, we will meet all of the zoning regarding dimensional, yard setbacks, open space, lot coverage, those will all
Limited
be...
business, single story, other dimensional requirements. Okay, you have to, the facility, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
has to be 2,500 square feet plus 0.05 times the square footage of the lot minus 80,000 square feet. Have you done that math?
We have done that math.
And what does it come out to be?
You got them on the spot.
Yeah, I forgot my crib notes.
Well, it makes a difference as to whether it's single story or two story.
And it does. It
So
does.
that's why I'm asking you, and you're basically telling me these are single stories.
Well, we have options for a second floor. Not every unit will be exactly the same. If we need to have everything 2 stories, obviously we would. It wouldn't change the look of the project or
When
look
we
of the
meet again,
product.
could you please have an answer
Yes.
for this maximum gross floor area?
I do have that calculation. I could search for
And
it right now.
it hinges directly on the floor area
Correct,
and whether or not it's 1 or 2 stories.
correct.
Okay? And that would include all parts of the facility, correct?
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
just looking at it as an individual, when I see the common area and the clinician spot is so much smaller than the gym or anything else, it makes me a little nervous.
Well, again, people can come in and be seen by their clinician. It's not like we're serving the whole community where you're walking in and there's multiple rooms.
I think it would be helpful if you tightened that up a little bit, because
Okay.
in answer to something that Pat said, you were saying, would it be a nurse or
Yeah, what is it?
an RN or an LPN? And then the answer was, doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
So is that, could I apply? I mean, I think that needs to be tightened up for us, okay?
And your 24/7 care for these people.
I have a couple of questions.
I have
Yes,
a list.
Jim.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay. Hold on a second, as soon as Jim's done.
The original drawings we were given are dated January 15th, 2020.
Correct.
The ones we were given tonight were dated February 15th, 2020.
Yeah, I put everything, this is a presentation plan, so I just, for ease, I put the whole developed area on one presentation sheet.
Okay, well, here's you have 65 units,
Correct.
of which 3 are single units,
Yes.
which would leave you with 3 single buildings and 31 duplex buildings for residential, plus the common building,
Correct.
okay? These drawings only show 27 duplex units. This one that you just gave us tonight shows 31.
No. This is the same, we have 3 singles, and then we have duplex, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8.
I counted them twice.
20,
He's pretty good at math.
Right here. That's a single.
30,
They're singles.
31.
That's what he said.
So that's 62. 31 times 2 is 62, plus 3 singles, that's 65.
When I counted them out on here, between this one and the following page,
Did you get, there's a,
so between the 2 pages, I got 27 total units.
there's 31 duplex style and 3 singles.
Well, that's what you're showing here, but this one, the old one,
It's the same exact plan, I just shrunk it down to put it on one sheet.
you know,
Unless there was a match line, there was some,
well, I counted all the ones on this page that didn't touch the match line,
it's the
and
same
then
exact.
everything, I counted the rest of them here from the match line up, and I got totally.
I have the units all numbered as well. Okay,
Just something to double check.
okay.
What is the relationship of Bayada with this? Are they a joint venture, or are they a joint owner, or are they just a service provider that?
Service provider.
Okay,
I didn't hear you.
A service provider.
Service provider.
so why is this not, or why shouldn't we just consider this to be a residential, senior residential development?
Because we've added the amenities in the project to distinguish it. The fact that the units are similar to cottages is what we were looking for. We're looking not to have an institutional look. We're looking to have a cottage-style residential look with the amenities that make it a CC housing.
Okay, well, we also have in town Northbrook Village, which is a over 55 community. They can call Bayada just as easily as anybody else can, and Bayada can come and provide them with all the services within their complex.
So they have the space set up for Bayada to accommodate
I
that?
believe they have a community center there that they could use.
All right.
So-
And we have someone who is
On-site.
on-site staff that is there as, to be an on-site eyes, ears, and help to manage
But
everybody.
again, you haven't specified what a 24, literally,
They
they
could-
could get someone for 24 hours that stays
The
on the
residents
property
live there. We're
too.
not saying they're awake 24 hours, they're on site 24 hours. That's the, and we have a facility.
If it's
for
a
them.
doctor, I can understand
No,
that's
they're not a
different,
doctor.
so it's just someone who
We
can pick
couldn't
up the
afford to have
phone
a
and
doctor
call.
full-time on site.
So if Northbrook Village hired their gardener to
Exactly.
hang out 24/7,
The cell
they'd
phone.
have somebody
I think
with
we're
a
gonna use
cell phone.
better judgment than that.
Well, I-
Gotten-
Granted,
We did better.
but they would have somebody there 24/7, I mean, that doesn't,
It's basically with a phone.
We're gonna
Here-
call- No,
let
no.
let me explain my concern.
Yes, sir.
Last May, at town meeting, we had a proposal to use this same lot and put in a senior residential development.
Yes,
And the members of this town voted that down.
yes.
So So now basically we're coming back with a very similar project, and we're saying we're putting somebody there 24/7, and they have access to Bayada, which everybody else in town has access to as well. So now we're trying to slide this in basically in defiance of what the town shut down.
There's no sliding, we're coming before you.
Well, yeah.
The full proposal, there's no sliding yet. Please, don't use that word.
Well,
It's offensive to me.
we're
We don't
putting
see
in,
anything in writing that would restrict it.
we're putting in one person, or a couple, to be there 24/7. That's the only difference between the original senior housing development proposal
No,
and...
there's a number of differences.
No, this will, by having the services on site, this will allow people economically. Oh, that's not- This will allow people the ability to age in, the families to know that if my mother is moving here, that she is in a community where there is someone who is responsible, who can keep an eye out for her, who is there in case she needs services. She can go to any therapy, whether it's, physical therapy, and have the ability to have that on site. I don't have to go pick her up and take her to the doctor, to this specialist, to that. She will have access through to have all of those services on site. And it's peace of mind, it's having a community, and in addition to that, there are going to be community services where they will have outings. They will have groups where they can say, okay, we're going to have, a trip to the art museum. We're going to have,
There's some, we're not going to deny,
We're not-
similarities. We're not going to deny that. But we're also going to say that there are differences. And we have differences, and we have explained them, and we have shown them.
and we will give more specificity to the on-site staff, the on-site services.
And if you have concerns, we can draft up a set of
You
deed
can listen
restrictions.
to us, and when you come back again, you can be better
Absolutely.
prepared.
Okay.
Kate, you had,
Yeah, thank you. You answered a lot of those questions already, but I did want to get back to how are you going to staff this? So we know it's not a certified nurse. It's not anybody who's certified in the medical industry whatsoever.
physical therapist.
Not
Or it
necessarily.
could be, or maybe we don't know. Okay.
Correct.
So there's going to be, and these are condos, so the condo fees are paying for this service? Is it an opt-in, or is it part of the association?
There'll be two sets of fees. There's obviously a set of fees for the usual,
The facilities.
Like
plowing,
condo fees,
landscaping,
plowing,
that's
landscaping,
a separate fee.
Okay.
And then there would be a separate fee to cover the costs of having the 24/7 staff on site.
Okay.
And services and providing a meal on site. Again, that's another specific thing that would be, providing.
Okay, so it's an opt-in option, it's not a commitment when you purchase the property, you can opt in to.
It's not mandatory.
So it's possible that all units could opt out at some point.
Not likely, but...
Or it is possible that a number of them can opt out to the point where it's no longer a viable business solution.
Highly unlikely, but I guess it's possible. It's highly
Who's going
unlikely.
to be doing the hiring and recruiting and the HR and the taxes for this employee? Is this employee an entity of the condo association?
Yes, that's part and parcel with the.
So is the board, or who's making the decisions to hire this person and fire this
So in
person?
typical development, I'll back off into the over 55 communities, they hire a management company. We're hoping that it's not necessary. If it is necessary, we would hire a management company. If the on-site person has CPA skills, or if they have horticultural skills, or if they have medical skills, we would utilize that person's skills within the development. And that person would be hired initially by the developer who's developing it. Later on, they would form their own committee, and they would hire internally and control that people.
Okay, I get you, but it's still a separate entity from the condo association in itself. So it is possible that that could dissolve on its own, either from a lack of membership in there that would support the funding for that employee, right? If you don't have enough people putting money into it, then the price is going to escalate, and at some point it might not work. It could go bankrupt. At that point, do these units become just regular condos? Are they allocated towards the regular 40B requirement that the town has to meet? Are there affordable housing in here at all?
So you could say that, what if all the old people died, and we only had young people who would live in the thing? The likelihood of all your scenarios are so highly unlikely.
No, that's a very realistic scenario. I mean, there's a lot of businesses that go out all the time. If this is an area that's set aside for a regular business, if a landscaper moves in and builds up a structure and then goes out of business, another landscaper can move in. Or any other business, you talked about weed manufacturing. Other businesses can move in. In this case here, if this business dissolves, what we have now are a bunch of condos, right?
We're going to de-restrict it, so that doesn't happen. Those concerns are not valid. We're going to de-restrict it.
I think you need to show us how you're going to de-restrict it.
Okay.
And I think you're absolutely right, Keith. I mean, are you going to manage this?
Initially, yes.
Well, what do you mean initially?
The developer manages every project initially.
Right, but you're going to at some point...
Over long term, no.
Okay. Well, then, whoever manages it could turn around and decide not to provide medical care.
Deed restriction.
I'd like to see what the deed restriction would
If
be.
that's your concern, I will address that.
And if it would be with every unit, and if it would be with the condo association
It would
as
be
a
a
whole.
master document for the entire
Just-
development.
It would be.
Right, and the individual. I think we gotta be suspects.
Okay.
I mean, these are 4 folks that need nursing care, we assume, with 2-car garages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zip out the door.
Do you know what I mean?
If somebody wants to.
I'm just, okay, you've gotta,
So we visited, I've visited these developments in other towns, and I've seen what they've done, and a lot of these have started out one model, and I've talked to the people, I've done the homework, and I've talked to them. This is the product that they desire. If they can have this product right here, some of those other people, those other communities would prefer this model, because now, things are gonna change over time with
well,
automatic
do they
cars
know
and-
they're moving into an institution by definition? That has to be licensed by the state. Now, I don't know what that means, but there are licensures through the state, so
The caregivers are licensed by the state now.
Actually, there are different, and I'm sure, I went on the website for the Massachusetts State, and there's a whole list of things that you need to comply with.
Clearly, the
And-
caregivers have to be
And
licensed.
those are, if this were a nursing home,
But you're supposed to be
the
residential care.
institution is supposed to be licensed.
There
Yes,
are-
thank you.
there are different levels. There's independent living, there is
But there are
continuing-
certain things that you have to comply with, and we will go on the
And-
website.
And the services that would be provided to these people, the providers who will be on site are licensed with the state, so it's.
And again, probably for the next time, when you come, we need a list of all the people that are going to be on site. How many people are going to be on site? When are they going to be on site? Exactly. So in other words, you're having a healthcare facility in there, and you're having physical therapists.
Which is about the size of...
Yes, and I did see the picture of the clinical area. In other words, that's one person at a time, because it's about the size of the bathroom.
And
Your
that's not,
dining room, how many does your dining room hold at a
Not
time?
many.
and that's not to say that someone can't have services.
Again, but for next time,
Okay,
how many are
understood.
in the how many does your dining room handle? Does it provide hot meals, like a breakfast? Are you doing a continental breakfast off-site, or are you preparing meals in the facility?
Okay.
And how many meals can you do, and how many does the facility hold?
So for next time, you're also going to show us that you're meeting these other requirements. You've done the math.
Yeah.
Have you met with Highway Department?
Yeah?
Not
Fire
yet.
Have you met with the Fire Department?
We are meeting with the fire department next week.
We actually
Board
had
of
a
Health.
meeting this morning, it just got changed.
Board of Health, because I don't
I
see on
did-
these
I did
plans.
speak-
where the water supply is
I
coming.
spoke with the Board of Health, and once we get into the specifics of it, obviously it's a sand and gravel
Aren't
pit.
we in the specifics?
Yeah, kind of.
Well,
Septic.
right now,
This is a concept plan.
well, this is, obviously.
So this is
meets-
only a concept.
This meets all of the zoning requirements, it meets all of the layout, the setbacks, all of that.
Can we also have plans on what the bedrooms look like inside, your
Sure.
kitchens and whatnot?
Typical layout.
Typical layout on the homes? Also for the traffic, again, everybody who's going to be going in and out of that development, because you're saying there's 10
There
like
is a
units.
traffic study.
I saw the traffic study, but I go out and in and out of my house in the morning more than that. You're going to have people, obviously, from all your providers and care. Those are people that are going in and out of there every day for your spa facility, your manicurist, your hair salon, your
That's-
activities. All those people needs to be accounted for. Who's coming in and out of there. You got landscapers, snow plows, mail trucks, Amazon pickups.
Yeah.
There's quite a few people going in and out of here. Food
And only
trucks,
one
delivery
entrance.
trucks. And you've got one entrance, and that's it, right?
We have a double barrel entrance, and again, we're gonna be talking, this is something that we're gonna talk to the fire department about.
Yeah, fire department has to know, highway department.
Right, so we have a meeting with
Police
them,
department needs to.
but typically, for many sites, we would have a double barrel. This is an extra wide entrance, an extra wide exit, so.
And
we'll
if the
talk to
tree falls down across it?
Right,
We'll talk, that's what we're gonna be talking to the fire
because you're
department.
proposing 144 parking spaces too. That's a lot of cars.
Well, that's,
Doesn't mean we're gonna have that many cars. It means
garage
I know.
spaces, and then a couple,
That includes garages.
that includes garages and a couple of overflow spaces.
And you're gonna have all the information about who the clinical care people are and what kind of degrees and whatnot they have?
Yeah.
And how do you get a physical therapist there? Do you call your own physical therapist, or are you having one on site from this provider?
It would be with the provider.
Okay. And now that provider is like, they have offices in Marlboro and Worcester, so you just call up and they send out whom you need at the time?
Yes, and we'll have and someone could have, obviously, within the facility, they could do physical therapy within the gym area. That's where we can have,
So it's basically physical therapy, but every other service that you provide as well.
yes.
All right, we
Those
kind of
those
want.
services would have to be, unless you're going to private pay, they would have to be prescribed by a physician.
Okay, bingo.
That is the only way Bayada would come out. I actually worked for Bayada for a while
Okay, thank you.
when I lived in Rhode Island.
So they would have to have a doctor.
They would have to have a doctor's note, and at least in Rhode Island, if you were able to leave your house for a service, then you were not able to have
To
it
an on-site.
inside of your facility. It had to be, you were not able to leave the house for more
Can
than...
you check that out for Massachusetts, please?
It is the same, it's the same. I was a registered
Oh, okay, so they cannot do that.
manager.
All
I
right.
do all these services and everything like you're talking
So that's a
about.
possibility
I'm
that's
sorry,
not
could you
available.
stand and give your
Sure.
name?
Sure, I'll stand. I'm Jan D'Agostino. I was a nurse case manager at my hospital. I used to set up these services, and she's absolutely right. For skilled nursing, you need a doctor's order. If you want your insurance to pay for it, private pay, that's a different story. But,
Physical therapy or
oh
anything?
yeah, physical therapy, skilled nursing, hospice is also, you need doctor's orders for all that. For speech therapy, yep.
Okay, thank you.
Private pay, Bayada does that. They do, nursing aides work, they do that. But it's all private pay. And we can do that in our homes now.
Yeah.
And we do. We got them in our homes.
Yes.
I'm Dr. Jane. I'm a practicing primary care physician. Okay, my mom lives on Meadowbrook.
She's our neighbor.
I'm going to tell you, from a healthcare standpoint, this is not going to fly. You're going to need a DPH to come in there. If you're going to provide all these kind of health services to 100+ people, okay, potentially 130 people, okay, this is a clinic setup. You need DPH to come in there and license you. I'm not sure if that's going to happen the way you have it set up right now. okay? In a mom and pop office, that's a different thing, there's no DPH required there. But if you're gonna provide nursing, hospice care, physical therapy, occupational therapy, whatever else therapy you're gonna need, DPH is gonna have to come in there and license you and make sure everything's up to code from their standpoint, not from the fire code, from the other codes, okay? So just to let you know, what you're selling right now does not fly. That's the first thing. Second thing is, how is that going to impact the neighbors? Forget the traffic, and this is all constructed and everything. How's it gonna impact the neighbors? Property values, okay? What's it gonna do to all of those things, okay? My mom's 83, 84, and she has zero income, except for Social Security, okay? And if that's gonna drop her property values, I'm gonna be pissed off. I'm gonna be very pissed off, okay? So, I'm gonna find out that it's me making this, and I'm on the Board of Health in the next town over. So, you know, I am part of the community in Northborough, all right? I am going to be pissed off when this is gonna drive my mom's property values down. Forget the DPH and all this stuff, so.
Would you like to work closer to home?
No interest. 31, 30 years, I'm done, okay? But my point is, I still know what the rules are, and what you're trying to sell is not gonna, as far as I'm concerned, should not fly or will not fly, okay? Because you will need a lot more if you want to try to provide those kinds of services in that community room, okay? For sick people, you will need to have a license from the state. And that's not the easiest thing to do in healthcare these days.
Lynn, before we open it up to the board, I have a question.
Okay.
So I'm looking at the definitions for the continuing care retirement community.
Speak up, please.
I'm looking at the definitions for continuing care retirement community and residential care facility. And both of these describe it as living accommodations. And I looked up the legal definition of living accommodations, and my phone shut off since then. But I don't believe these can be condominiums because living accommodations are defined as structures collectively in which people are housed, housing, lodging, apartment or flat, a suite of rooms usually on one floor or an apartment house. Living accommodations is not condos. So I think that whether it needs to go to legal counsel for a broader definition of this, but I don't believe that we can even entertain this as a regional, residential care facility or as a continued care retirement community as condos. I believe it will have to be apartments or patient care facility.
I know that there are other facilities in surrounding towns.
But this is this town.
I'm just telling, let me just tell you what the model is there are other communities that do have on-site cottages that are similar in style to this. In association, they may have a larger building that does have memory care. They have a building staffed with nurses and for higher levels of care. But they do have independent living components to them. And there is one, I believe, that's going to be built soon, where they are using a typical model that we've seen is, as we stated, having you pay a fee, which is equal to the cost of the unit. And then when you move out, you get 89% of that back. But there are other models that I believe are being built where they are going to have them with their own, there is unit ownership.
May I ask that you provide us with the names of 4 or 5 of these units that exist?
Sure.
So that we can, and my suggestion to you would be not to wait until we meet again, but to do it in a way that we would be able to.
We need the information like 7 days ahead of time.
Sure.
And also the fact that you're saying that just putting up little, like we said, dwellings, but you'd also said that some of them had registered nurses, et cetera. you're implying that it's still a different setup than the exact one that you have. So we need the specifics,
Okay.
real specifics.
Yeah, for each of those, you know, what is it? Are they condos? Are they,
And what is the care?
yeah, and who provides the care? And if you find 4 or 5 of those in Massachusetts for us, that we have a chance to look at, maybe it would, you know, give us a different purview on it. You need to go to highway, you need to go to police, you need to go to fire, you need to go to the Board of Health. When are you planning on doing, and when I say go there, I mean, it's not just, hi, how are you, and you walk out, you know what I mean?
No, we're getting all their feedback. Like I said, we're meeting with the fire department next week. I've had discussions with the Board of Health. We'll be putting those plans together for their review for well and septic. We've been in front of the Conservation Commission. We were in front of the Conservation Commission last week, and we're looking to address some of the items that they're looking for in terms of, you know, protecting resource areas. So we're getting into the process with everybody.
Could I suggest, so that there is no confusion, when you come back from them, you come back with something in writing?
Sure.
So that, you know, your recollection and their recollection doesn't have a difference. Yes, I'm sorry, you were waiting and I gave the board member an opportunity first.
Sorry, Marissa Ivanzi, and I live at 245 River Road West. So similar to the ladies on the board, I also did look up a continuing care retirement community is a retirement community. And I think one of the things that I heard earlier is that, let's say you're 62 and would like to live here, so that you have the option of being a patient at some point. This is what is proposed. What that says to me is that it's not a 55 and older community, it's just a 62 and older community, so of note. And then with regards to the data you gave us with parking, it's proposed to have 144, I think you said, and you said that includes the 135. If you do the math of the 135 in the garages, that leaves 9 additional parking spots, correct? Which for the level of care that you've indicated for the staff that would need to be on site would seem not sufficient.
You understand why we're suspect. How many units were you looking to put in here when you went to town meeting with over 55?
There were 66, and what caps and ideally for facilities of this type, to have larger facilities, obviously the costs go down with the larger the facilities are. The sweet spot is about 120 to 150 units. What caps the amount of units is the septic loading, which would cap you at a total of 66.
And finding a well.
And a well, obviously, but...
Because you're gonna need, what, public water supply?
That's definitely public water supply.
See, normally, if this weren't a healthcare facility, this would be a 40B. Because you couldn't build that many houses on that size of a lot. Because you need 2 acres per house.
Entirely different project, it wasn't 40B, entirely different.
Well, all I'm saying is it doesn't meet the regular standards for single-family houses. And single-family houses wouldn't be allowed in that district anyway, even multiple-family houses. So I hope you can understand why we're a little skeptical when you're a little lean on the services that you're providing, and that they're gonna require some doctor to authorize the services anyway. When the size of the clinic, if you will, is probably the smallest facility there. We don't have any layouts. We have beautiful pictures of the exterior, but not of what's going to be inside. We have 2-car garages. It means to me that there's going to be 2 people living in each house.
Minimum.
And, right. 2 people in each house and both of them drive. So if you can try to address some of those issues.
Do the patients or the people own the condos?
Yes.
Yes. They do. So when they pass, what happens then? Do they will it to you?
They sell it.
They sell
To who?
They sell it on the
Oh,
market.
Michael Trapp, Summer
On the
Road.
market.
To the market, so anybody can buy it?
No,
No,
it's
they'd
restricted.
have to meet the qualifications.
Which you will provide to us what those qualifications in the master deed and the condo association restrictions will be the next time, correct?
Mm-hmm.
May I name?
Sure.
Judy Rothbard Tate.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Mother's having a problem. She wants to go up the other door.
I'm sorry we interrupted you. I think she's fine. I think she's on the phone.
She's okay. Judy Rothbard Tate, 88 Brook Lane. I want to say I live in Meadowbrook Village, and many of my neighbors are here this evening. I heard something that was referenced.
Judy, could you speak up, please?
I have a little bit of a cold, so I'm sorry. I heard that there was a reference to a traffic study that was done. I would like to see that because, and I'm sure many of my neighbors agree with me. the
We'll get you a
traffic-
copy before you leave if you want to
Okay,
hang
I would
around.
like to see that, and then I'll come back and ask my questions in a minute.
Is that traffic study including the traffic they expect once those apartments start getting populated?
Well,
Because it's going to be
Yeah.
crazy
It's
on River
actually
Road.
based on I can read it to you if that's okay.
I'm about fan of number 6.
The
Any
traffic,
pertinent part, and then we can
what,
go
yeah,
on.
well, pertinent basically is based on a standard. It's not any information that they've seen go by. It's from, actually, sir, it's from your firm, and it's calculated to an equivalent on a trip generation manual. So it's based not on what's gonna happen down there, but we will provide you with a copy on the way out, okay?
So what are you telling me? It isn't taking into account what's
No, it isn't.
expected?
It's done on a basic, from a book on what happened.
so it isn't even taking into account the traffic
No,
that we have.
you could discuss it with this gentleman, but we will give you copies,
And which
okay?
has been abominable, and you can speak with the police department. for
They'll
what's
be
happening.
talking to the highway and the police.
Yeah.
Linda, ask the question?
Absolutely.
So my name's Jackie Marshall, I'm at 48 Summer Road, and I think Mr. Grenier referenced that you were thinking about a phase 2. So my question to you is, if you're going through phase 1, we're approving 100 for elderly today, what will phase 2 look like?
Yeah.
What will that approval look like? And can you change, you also said that you didn't need state certification on what you were doing. So does that mean that you could change the residential facility to be a different declaration, I guess, of something else? And you could have, could we have opioids there? Could it be something else drastically? And what would that look like? Or could it be complete residential open housing? Could the designation of that facility change?
You're talking about this?
Yes, because you said you did not need state approval. I thought I heard you say that. I
But
may
that
have
doesn't mean that
misunderstood.
we have to meet the, whatever the conditions of this board are. We can't take this and turn it into something else.
So you meet the conditions today and say worst case scenario, we have a bankruptcy case, right? And it gets sold to someone else. What are we looking at as a community of what that could possibly be? Is it wide open? Does anybody know the answer to that?
No?
Homes. It could be homes. Because I don't know a 62-year-old that wants to live on the second floor.
Well,
but
they're
that's
going to
just
provide
what-
us with the deed restriction and the master deed and the deed restriction that's going to go into each individual house.
Okay.
And I don't know if I might like to live there, but I don't know if I'd buy if I knew I was a patient.
Right.
It has a little different of a connotation.
And then would it have to go through the same requirement for the board in the next expansion is my follow-up question? It would have to be approved again further by all of the.
Right, this is what we're in front of you, this is what we're for now. Anything beyond this or anything else is total speculation.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, hi.
Name and address.
My name's Deb Taylor, and I live at 41 Summer Road. And my concern, I have a lot of concerns, but you talk about phase 2 of the property, you know, you have that extra thing you're trying to buy now. What are you gonna put there, more houses?
We have no idea.
Oh,
And
come
again,
on.
anything would be speculation. Again, there were different uses that were being looked at over the past year and a half.
Because see, when I bought my property, I live on a dead-end street, and I bought that because it's a dead-end street. And I bought that property because it's in the woods. And that's all gonna change. That's gonna cut down all the trees. You're gonna have noise pollution. You're gonna have noise pollution. You're gonna have light pollution. Not you guys, but we will. Summer Road, it's not far from there. It's right up over the hill.
There is nothing being proposed besides what is within the existing pit.
How about the other piece of land where Summer Road is?
That's not true. You're gonna have lighting in there?
Yeah.
You're gonna have screening?
And this is, if you've ever been over there, there's a 20 to 30 foot high berm.
But that has to be all spelled out that it's gonna be maintained and so wide and so high, okay?
Right, well, that's what exists now.
See, I think, I'm a little nervous because it's conceptual, okay? It doesn't say what exactly it's gonna be and it's subject to change.
Right.
When you're going out on a limb here and saying that this is like something else, given the history that there were gonna be 66 units, given that these ill people are gonna have 2-car garages, okay? Given that there is no real medical team on site, there's gonna be a janitor who's gonna be able to refer them or call the ambulance when it's needed. These are the kinds of concerns that I have, okay? And I don't know, maybe my colleagues don't share these fears,
Oh,
do
yeah,
you?
we do. So much so. He's got the list.
Yes, sir. Okay, you next, okay?
Ken Braun, 55 Brook Lane, Berlin. I came in here pretty much with one question tonight. I wanted to hear a viable business plan. I hear a lot of wishful thinking, no known viable business plan, and no contingency plan in case that business fails. That's what I need to see.
Well, I think that's one of the concerns that we have, because basically they're gonna build it and move on. They're gonna sell it off to the people that buy it, and it's gonna be a condo association. And they're not gonna have anything further to do with
They
it.
may the possibility, they may not be able to.
Or worse.
So when the bankruptcy happens, it's not gonna be them, it's gonna be...
The people that are living there.
Yes.
Yeah, my name's Bob Morlock, I live on Summer Road, and I want to talk just about the lot itself, all right? 40 years ago, when the sand pit was winding down, they put a grade on the sand pit from top to bottom. So the whole back of that pit has been graded. Will that grade be staying the same? Or will that be tweaked, as you said?
On the back portion of the pit,
Yeah.
which is, on the westerly portion, that none of that is being changed. This slope, we're not changing right at the property line on the northern portion, and in this area, just inside the buffer zone to the resource areas, that is all sloped. We are not changing, we're not lowering the top of that slope. All we're doing is regrading that so it's a smooth slope.
So you're going to be changing the original grade?
The interior face of that, the top of the slope, the elevation at the top of the slope is staying the same.
Right, but let me get an idea of that. We got the top of the slope, the bottom of the slope, so you can cut all that out and put a wall in?
No, no.
So you're going to leave the slope the way it originally was?
Yes, and right now, some of the slope winds in and winds out, whatever, but we're gonna make it a smooth slope.
So now you're going to subdivide the sand pit lot into two pieces, one for this project, one for something down the road. Where will the access for that second piece be? Will that be from Summer Road, or will that be from River Road?
No, anything, physically, the elevation differences between River Road and Summer Road, there's a huge gradient difference. We are not looking to try to access or cut through from River Road to Summer Road. It's not gonna happen. And
One last question. On Summer Road, what do you have for road frontage?
there
Less than
is,
200 feet.
there's frontage for the existing home that is on there right now.
Right, and that's pre-existing limited frontage. So you cannot bring a road or a driveway in through Summer Road.
And we're not looking to.
So those of us that live in the Summer Road community don't need to worry about additional traffic, no matter what the project is.
No.
I have one other question.
We would, and just, and in addition to that, Summer Road, that's in a residential district.
Yeah.
River Road, that is in a limited business.
Right.
You can't run commercial roads from a residential district into a commercial district. So there would be...
You showed my property on a map earlier, and you showed that the line cuts my property in half. Part of my property is residential, part of mine is limited business. So you can't cross that line, is that what you're saying?
With a road to gain access into a commercial,
Even for emergency access?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no, the elevation, you could never, you would need people in rappelling gear for emergency access. You could never get a
We have
road.
no intention of doing that.
No intention of doing that.
Don't say never until you speak to the emergency department, okay? I have another question. It's been nice speaking with you folks, but we have no evidence, as far as I know, although you're supposed to supply it to the town clerk, that you have an interest in the property.
On the applications, it was signed by the owner of the property and the applicant.
Okay, who's the owner of the property? It just says Worcester Sand and Gravel.
Correct.
And you can't read the signature.
Well, that's the signature.
Well, you're giving the presentation and the application is made out, or the permit, were there to be one granted, would be to CASA Investments.
We can get it.
Now we need a purchase and sale. I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you.
He keeps me honest.
Michael Gaskin, 6 Alden Drive. At the age of 30, I sometimes wonder if I'm the youngest homeowner in Berlin. If anybody knows differently, please tell me.
We resent that. We may not deny it, but we resent it.
So I wanted to respond to something that was said earlier, which was a remark about property value, which was obviously met with great approval by the townspeople. I suppose I'm so new at owning property that I've never really thought about my property value much, but I just wonder, to what extent does my interest in maintaining my property value override or trump the right of other people to put their property to the maximally productive use that's allowed under the law. Now, there's been a lot of excellent questions raised tonight about whether this project is actually an allowed use, but I just think as we consider projects in town in the future, if we have an absolute right to put political pressure on and veto anything that might degrade our property value, I wonder if anything can ever be built. That's all.
Just to try to give you a little bit of a response, okay?
Yes, please.
When the board sits and they're determining, at least I can speak for myself, maybe not my colleagues, but when they're determining, is this like this? Is it less detrimental than what would be allowed? Okay. I don't know anybody quite like the neighbors to know what's more detrimental to their neighborhood. So I'm glad to see that a good turnout of them.
Yes.
How old did you say you were? It will come with time. Have I missed anyone else?
We appreciate the board's thoughtfulness, so thank you.
Oh, thank you. That doesn't usually get a thank
Until the decision, we very well. Yes, sir.
Hi, Richard Kennedy, I'm on 82 Brook Lane, and I think there's some many interesting things to this, and I thank you for the presentation. I'm in favor of the aging in place. I feel like I'm doing it today as we speak.
Exactly.
Just to let these people know why a lot of us are concerned, we remember the proposal for the Circle,
Yes.
which was going to have a restaurant, a small grocery
Yeah.
store, a few shops, and a few apartments.
Pharmacy.
We're still looking for the shops, the
Oh, yeah.
restaurant, Midway. So we tend to be very apprehensive when we hear this kind of proposal. We just work. I mean, it's only normal. You gotta understand.
We can appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
Let me just say who I am. I'm Steve Benicasso. I live in the town of Westboro. I've been a developer for 42 years. I've never filed bankruptcy. I've completed every single development I've ever done. I've built through 4 recessions. And believe me, it's damn hard to do that. And there's not many people can say that. But I finished every single project. I've never filed bankruptcy. I've been a developer my whole life. Some of the other projects that are built in town are not built by developers, and there's a difference. And unfortunately, every developer gets painted by the same brush, every car dealer gets painted by the same brush, every landscaper, but there's a difference, okay? And so check my development out, check my website out, check my projects out. If anybody has a question about the quality of my projects, if you think my project is going to evaluate your project, give me a call and I'll take you a ride and I'll show you a couple of my developments. You might complain that they increase the value of your property, and then you have to pay more taxes, right? No matter what I do, you know, it may not fit your budget, but I can tell you, my projects do not devaluate the abutting properties. They're beautiful projects, they're well landscaped, they're well manicured. My daughter here has a huge part in my designs, and the landscaping, and the floor plans. We are the top of the line, top of the line. Check my projects out. Go ahead, please. Thank you.
Do any of the board members have anything else?
We've got a question from Marissa.
Okay, as soon, do any of the,
No, I really want legal to look at the definitions to see if we can even obtain this. That's my big thing.
anyone else? I'm sorry to keep you waiting.
I don't know if this is a reasonable request.
Name and
Oh,
address.
sorry, Marissa Ivanzian, 245 River Road West. I don't know if this is a reasonable request or if this would happen with your board or if this would happen, but I have the utmost respect for our emergency services personnel. I would love to see data from similar facilities that treat patients for the same number, similar in size, and how many calls to 911 are typical, to see if our emergency services department could handle 135 patients.
Okay, does anyone else have any other input that they'd like to give to us? Not that you won't get another chance. Do you have any question in your mind as to what we're looking for and this audience is looking for from your next
I think that's a pretty good note, a couple of pages. So I think I've got everything.
So you understand our issues?
Specifics.
Is the board so inclined to continue until our next regularly scheduled meeting? Do you think you can resolve all of this because within the next 30 days? Because if you don't, we're not going to be back in here. 30 days? The second Wednesday of every month. You want to come back in April? And I want you to sign the waiver. It's then, I got 100 days, okay, it's a day of filing, okay? In the end, can we trouble you? Yeah, one by default. Oh, you haven't lived. All right. we here, could you, no, we're gonna sign paperwork here. Okay, and what was the filing date, because I saw one on the 10th. Okay, so January 15th, just
Second. Do we have anything on the agenda yet?
Then we just say after he posted the petition, because he didn't want it to be an extra month. Do you want it 6:30 or 7 o'clock?
7.
Okay.
6:30 is too early.
At 7 o'clock.
Too early. Yeah, I'm being for it. I left the barn. Can we make a motion to close?
Camera. We did, no.
What?
I know. You've got the 110 grill on your mind.
I just put it still going now?
We do it
All right.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll go back to the regular meeting.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I have a bill from Haley and Ward in the sum of $1278.56 for their work on the Capes of Berlin.
I'm sorry, Denny, would you repeat that? I didn't hear it.
I have a bill from Haley and Ward for the Capes of Berlin, the peer review,
Yes.
the engineering firm,
Okay.
for $1278.56 that needs to be paid.
Can I ask a question?
Okay.
Why isn't he paying?
He is.
He is.
Oh,
He deposited $7,500. That's okay.
It comes out of
Sorry.
176-255.57.
That's a lovely number, okay. Agreed.
So we can sign, how many do you want to sign it?
I don't care. If you're not comfortable, we can all sign it.
I'm comfortable.
John
You,
Hancock.
Okay.
Somebody else has got to sign
Motion
it.
to authorize Denny to sign for the board.
So moved. Yay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Your single signatory, and you signed the one that was for 6,000, so I don't know why you can't sign that one.
I signed it.
Oh, okay. So then you can just process it, and we'll have it in our minutes that we authorized it if anybody beats up on you.
All right.
I say we nominate the stink bug as an honorary member.
I know,
of
he's on the wall
Oh, dear
again.
God.
He's still here?
Yeah, he flew over on that
Yeah,
side.
he came.
Well, wait, how do we know it's the same one?
I don't.
I'm sure it is, so.
And just to bring you up to speed, we had another from Susan Roberts for a sign reimbursement of $478 that went onto the bill schedule.
Behind us, yeah.
So, yes.
So we now, I'd have to look it up, but the last
That's a nice
balance I
sign.
gave you is
It
going
is.
to drop by $478.
That's fine, whatever we do, say yes or.
Yeah, and you got mine too, right?
Yes, right here.
And he mentioned mine,
Mhm.
Yes.
and he filled out
Oh,
the,
yeah, we did that last meeting.
yeah.
Yours was
Okay.
approved.
Do you have anything else you want us to do in the way of minutes or whatever?
No, because I haven't heard from Amy, and I really would like her feedback on the Capes of Berlin portion before I want them to be voted on. So hopefully, so next meeting I should have
It'll
them.
give her something to read anyway, you know?
So we don't have one to...
We don't, and I still owe you January 8th, and then last week's meeting. But both of them included Capes of Berlin, and Amy likes to look them over. And I did not receive feedback from her.
Question, do we have something next month?
Yes, yes.
Capes of Berlin.
When we opened the Capes of Berlin, you forgot that?
You remember that?
How could you forget
Can you
that?
make it the 12th? I won't be here the 12th.
Well, you,
I will be here the 11th.
What day is it?
It's
The 11th.
Wednesday.
11?
It's 11th.
You change your life
Fired.
around us, you know better.
It's my only trip out of the year. It's always that week in March.
Oh, I hope you go somewhere good now.
San Diego and then Arizona.
Back?
That's the real thing.
Back to the girl.
Alright, there you go.
Oh, these are so good.
Good to adjourn?
Do we have anything else?
No, we were
Okay,
too
I'd just
high.
like an assessment. Do you think we were too hard on him? or-
No.
Wait, we should, we're still in open session.
Huh?
We're still in open
We're still
session.
We're in
open.
open session.
Oh,
I'm just looking for an assessment of how things went. Is this,
I think the distinction here, or my perception, is that he's expecting, or was expecting us to grant or to vote on his permit based
Without
upon
reviewing it.
everything just being concept.
Yeah.
And typically, we don't do that. We're pretty picky about requirements for what's in the permit.
I also felt that they expected us to change the law.
Yeah, and
Yes. Yeah. The
the,
lawyer implied that you can change the bylaw.
and down here in this pit, over in the back corner,
we've gone as far as we can go.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't talk about that at this point.
We can talk about procedure and stuff like that, but we can't discuss anything else. Okay, if you want, I'm gonna put my John Hancock on here. And will you save it for me, because I'll never.
Yes, but are you still looking at the old one, or did you grab a new one now? I think you had their original application. because
Which,
they tried to
that's
come-
separate, yeah.
They
that's
tried to
separate.
come to, before the board previously, but you said their application was inaccurate.
I'm just gonna put my
when they
name up
filed.
here,
Yes,
and I'll
hold
pass it
for
down
you.
to you, and you see if it's the new one or the old one or whatever.
You just got that one off the table.
No, she just got it off the table, and this is current.
Yeah. Town buildings, closure and employee notification policy, if
We all got
anybody's
that on our rinse and out.
interested. You know that, okay.
Okay.
I'll take that.
We signed the warrants. Do we have any unforeseen issue? The other thing is, we do have, when is that, like in March or April, that we have the, thing at?
It's usually in March, it's usually when I'm away in California, so it's usually
Okay.
middle of March.
This has happened before. You should change your travels.
Yeah, change your family if you
What are we
have to.
talking
My
about?
husband goes to
Class.
a show, a trade show, and I tag along because it's a free vacation.
Why not? Totally.
Okay, because I'd love to see everybody that can go, because we usually pick up something, right?
It's always on school vacation week, and I'm always away.
No, it's in March. School
Yeah.
vacation week is February and then in April.
What college?
Oh, college break.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, you can go out there online and you need to register for it, and there might be classes you want, you might not be able to get into them if you don't.
I looked at it, they weren't up.
Oh, they weren't?
No, they're not up.
Oh, Lynn, you put down what the board thought about Mark needs to file an application to reopen ordinance.
Oh, yeah, before we close, one other thing, I sort of did an executive decision, but I'd like to run it by the board. The question came up as to whether or not the Capes of Berlin had to pay the $75 over again. My thought was,
Yeah.
he's not
Yes.
he's not refiling, okay?
Right, it's just
He-
reopening.
We have the package already, so he's not refiling. We're just reopening what existed. So I'm saying no, but, you know,
Did you not ask him to send out notices to everyone or re-notify?
Yeah, he still,
Yes.
he still has to do that, but that's where the question came up is there's.
Filing again.
Filing,
A
right.
fee.
Because usually when there's a public hearing announcement, it goes with a filing. So that's where it's.
so does anyone disagree with
Well, does he have,
for
does he
going
have
with
to republish it
$75
in the
because we
newspaper?
already
Yes,
have
yes,
everything?
Everything,
Yeah.
everything is redone.
Give him a break, he isn't too happy with it.
Well, I think that was partially our fault, just as much as his, for
I don't sure with that.
not getting all that information to begin with to require it to be reopened, so.
Well, I don't think Amy realized it until she actually went to write the decision and said, I don't have a distance here, and I don't, you know. Oh, that stink bug is growing.
Oh,
I
he's
don't know what it
friendly.
is.
He's eating good.
I don't, yeah, we
What
just.
do they eat?
Thank you for reminding
Other
me,
stink
Leanne, I don't know what okay, what are we gonna do next month about a recording person?
Yeah.
Great, great.
the next
Can you
month about
actually
what?
read my stuff? Send my
Yeah, you
decent?
and
Leanne's not gonna be here.
Okay, girlfriend.
And then we open up
Do we
Cape
tag
Berlin
team
again.
each other? and-
Somebody else will have to do it.
The three of us.
The
three of us.
Yeah, and then, and
You
if
did
it's being
game, yeah.
recorded, I
Thank you.
watch the video and
Oh,
just
yeah.
fill in any gaps, so.
On
right.
YouTube.
That worked out.
All right, so we will take this one, and the next one we punt back to you guys.
Fine.
never find
Here we go, the guys on this side,
I'll
the
be
ladies
sick
on this
that night.
side,
If
it's
you go
ladies' turn.
on the
Yep.
website, right on the front page, it says social media, and if you click on YouTube, it'll give you links to watch, and then you click on like town meetings, and it
So I
lists
go to the
meetings.
Town of Berlin website and social media.
Yeah, and then YouTube. And then click YouTube, and then it will let you look at if you wanted to, whatever that is.
Selectmen I've watched, but somebody's put it on Facebook.
Yeah.
Thank you.
do it right off
You
the
want a
website.
chocolate?
Not tomorrow morning. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.